Balance is that myth that we endlessly seek in moments where we're trying to regain control and we're feeling overwhelmed. At least that was the first line I wrote in my journal this morning. And the longer I sat with it, the more I started to consider whether balance itself is a myth or whether my definition of balance is just not that helpful. When I think about balance, I picture the wheel of life. And I'm always picturing the perfect distribution of energy across all areas of my life. Part of me knows that's not the most realistic, at least not all the time, but it doesn't stop me feeling guilty about it, pulled in 101 directions and thinking to myself, I need more balance. And I don't think I'm alone in this. I think that when the parameters of our life become so rigid, we can easily feel overwhelmed. And that looks different for everyone. Sometimes we doom scroll or stop doing the things that bring us joy, blame ourselves for not getting it all done, or end up like a hamster on a wheel going nowhere. I'll share an example of this from my own life. In April, I participated in National Poetry Writing Month, and that meant that I was publishing a poem every single day in April. Now, since then, I don't think I've written more than 3 poems in total. Part of me is anxious and worried about where all the words went, if I never get them back. And the other part of me knows that's just not the season that I'm in. Let's see if I can sit you down here. This summer has been a very different season for me. I've been very much focused on my health, fitness, getting a workout routine in order, and generally taking action that is going to make me feel a little bit better because, frankly, last season I was not feeling great. But my days aren't always going to look like they do today. My business isn't always going to look like it does today. And I won't always be writing this little poetry. This is just a season. And that got me thinking, maybe the idea of functional macros is another way that we can think about balance. How we distribute our finite time, energy, and resources across all the different parts of our lives. Just like with nutritional macros, there's not a one size fits all for everyone. It's going to differ depending on what we need right now and where we're going. Very windy. Hello. That was a welcome visitor. I'm keeping it in. That was the best. Balance then isn't about trying to be all things to all people and get everything done. It's about being conscious of our distribution and recalibrating as often as we need to. Scene change. I'm talking about this on a personal level, but it applies to businesses too. Right now, companies are investing a lot more time in research, learning, and development. Technology is changing, our roles are changing, and people are being asked to understand what that means while also continuing with all of their existing work. Trying to block us from the wind here because my mic has died. It's okay. We persist. In business, we have a number of different frameworks that we can call upon to help us understand what is changing in our business environment. PESTLE, Porter's 5 Forces, SWOT analysis. There are many different helpful tools. And not only does it help us understand what's changing, but it can highlight to us how we can navigate our way through it. At the same time, we need to consider how our response to that change is going to impact our work and the people in our business. If a new technology becomes part of someone's role, it needs a visible share in their working week. If a new priority is receiving more time, then something else is going to receive less. Otherwise, we aren't redistributing our work. We're just stacking more and more on top of each other and calling the resulting overwhelm a personal time management problem. And AI is a perfect example of this because the narrative is very much, this is going to save us so much time. We're going to get so much more done. And yes, while that may be true, we also need time to learn these tools and figure out how we can use them efficiently and effectively. I'm speaking on this as an operations consultant, and this is reflective of what I'm seeing, but there is research to back it up. In one survey I've got here, I'll include it somewhere here. The survey was over 17,000 employees, and people said their biggest worry about AI was not the technology itself. It was that the time saved would simply be filled with more work. Perhaps this is why we're feeling such a strong pull back towards that analog life. We're spending all of this time learning new technology while feeling more and more deficient in our touch grass time. My computer crashes if I have too many tabs open, and we're not computers. We do need rest, movement, relationships, creativity, and time in which nothing measurable is produced. And our functional macros won't always look like the people around us. Take a business, for example. We could have excellent employees, but one is preparing to be a new mom. Another is taking care of an elderly or sick parent. Another has all the time in the world, is highly energized and very work focused. Having that understanding gives us more room to support one another. And we stop expecting people to maintain the same level of output through every version of their lives. There is, of course, a difference between a change in season and a change in climate. We can't always control every season that we're in, but we can choose how we respond to it. And I think this functional macros approach is one way that we can do that. And also being intentional with ourselves when a season goes on for an extended period of time and we're starting to feel a bit depleted. That's a sign what we're doing is not sustainable. That can be okay short term. Sometimes it's necessary. We just need to push through. But I do also think that we need to build in a layer of protection. Coming back to our macro analogy, we need a certain number of calories to survive. And we can reduce that number by a certain amount for a certain period of time, but there is a minimum threshold. And if we go past that, it can get dangerous. We need certain nutrients in our diet, or over a prolonged period of time, we get sick. I think this same analogy applies really well across all areas of business and life. So then the question becomes, so what matters to me right now? And how can I distribute my time, energy, and resources to match that without starving all other areas of my life? To wrap this all up, balance isn't about feeding every part of our lives equally. When we are seeking balance, what that really is a signal that it's time to look at our balance wheel and how our energy is being distributed. And if we look at it through that lens, we can then ask ourselves helpful questions rather than thinking, I just need more balance. Questions like, what season are we in right now? Which areas are receiving most of our capacity? Did we choose that, or is it something that just happened when we weren't paying attention? What is this costing? Which areas might need additional support? How can we best distribute our resources based on what we have available to best support us in this moment? And when and how are we going to incorporate feedback loops, check-in points, so we can see what has changed since our last check-in point and where we might need to recalibrate? Now, I mentioned earlier that we don't get to control every season that we're in. We also don't all have the same amount of freedom, resources, and responsibilities. But we can sit with where we're at, look at the season that we're in, and then make a choice based on the options we have available. I don't want to never write a poem again. There will come a time where I prioritize that and I will get into the habit of writing every day to build that muscle and get it back. This video is also not about poetry or my hobbies. Our time is finite and we all know this. We're all consciously aware of what is eating up our time. And I think we're all trying to make the best choices in the moment, but that can sometimes lead to us trying to do everything all at once. This is a very different video for me to put out there. I'm a little bit nervous about it, but my seasons are also changing. And I wanted to put this out there as a way to connect and open up the conversation, because I don't think there is such a divide between our personal lives and our professional lives. I think it's all interconnected. So if you resonate with this, I would really love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, have a beautiful day wherever you are in the world.